My name is Michael. I'm 34 years old. And for a long time, I believed my life was solid, grounded, built on the kind of foundation you only see in happy ending stories. I had a wife, Ava. We met in college, sophomore year. She was studying art history. I was buried in engineering textbooks. We came from completely different worlds, but something about her made everything make sense. She was loud where I was quiet. She challenged me in every conversation. But when we were alone, we just clicked. Fast forward 10 years. We had a home, a daughter, a mortgage, joint Netflix accounts, couples therapy during tough patches, and a shared dream of building something lasting. When Ava told me she was tired of birth control, the pills, the side effects, the mood swings, the weight gain, the migraines, I listened. I believed her. She looked me in the eyes one night and said, "I feel like my body isn't mine anymore." So I said, "Then let me take this one. I'll get the snip." She laughed, cried, said I was the most selfless man she'd ever known. And I believed her. The vasectomy was easy, quick, clinical. 15 minutes and a frozen bag of peas later, I was back on the couch with a remote in one hand and Ava's hand in the other. She kissed my forehead, brought me soup, joked about officially retiring from condoms. It felt like a new chapter, one where we could be close again without the constant weight of what if looming over every touch. And for a few months, it was good. Better than good. I thought, this is it. This is what it means to be in sync, to really be a team. I'd done my part, and she seemed happy, relaxed, warm in a way I hadn't seen in years. But 3 weeks ago, that feeling cracked. It started small. She mentioned being late, offhand, said her period was probably stress. Then she started complaining of sore breasts, light nausea in the mornings, random cravings. A part of me, the rational, scientific part, immediately wanted to say, that's impossible. But I didn't. Because she looked so calm, so casual, like it didn't even occur to her how impossible this actually was. We even joked about it once over dinner. I said, unless God rewired biology, I think we're safe. She smirked. Maybe you're one of those miracle reversal cases. Her voice was playful, but her eyes didn't match. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while she slept next to me, and something in my chest shifted, a kind of static, like background noise I couldn't quite explain. The next morning, I scheduled an appointment with a fertility specialist. I told Ava it was just a post-op checkup, nothing big. She barely looked up from her phone. They ran the tests, blood work, semen analysis, the works. I waited. 2 days later, the results came in. 0 sperm. Not low. 0. I sat in my car outside the clinic with the email still glowing on my screen. My hands were cold. My mouth dry. Sterile. Still. Completely. There was no way she could be pregnant by me. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because I already knew the second shoe hadn't dropped. Not fully. Ava took a test 2 days later. It was positive. She smiled at me like it was a miracle. Like we'd won some lottery neither of us entered. I smiled back. And said nothing. Because while she held that little stick in her hand like it was the start of something beautiful, I had already mailed a DNA sample for our daughter. The one we'd raised together for 3 years. The one I called my baby girl every night. The one who, deep down, I feared, might not be mine. The results came in a week later. A sealed envelope. Thick paper. Black ink. I opened it with shaking fingers. And when I read the words, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there. Still. Because I'd already grieved it. She wasn't mine. Not by blood. And now Ava was pregnant again, with a child I knew couldn't possibly be mine either. It was a Thursday evening. I waited until Lily, our daughter, was asleep. Her bedtime had become sacred, a buffer between chaos and calm. Once she was down, I walked into the living room where Ava was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong in the world. "We need to talk," I said. She looked up, blinked. "What's going on?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached into the drawer beside the TV and pulled out 2 envelopes. Thick. Sealed. One already opened. The other still pristine. I placed them on the coffee table in front of her like evidence in a courtroom. "This," I said, tapping the open one, "is a DNA test. I had it done last month." Her face stiffened. I didn't let her speak. "Lily isn't my daughter, Ava." For a second, she didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then she whispered, "What are you talking about?" I slid the paper toward her. You can read it. Or I can summarize. Zero match. Not partial. Not close. She's biologically not mine. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. She stared at the paper like it might change if she blinked hard enough. Then she said the word I knew was coming. It was a mistake. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was insulting. A mistake? Ava, she's 3. You lied to me every day of her life. She swallowed hard, but her voice stayed soft. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't even know for sure, back then. I thought maybe. No, I cut in. You knew. You just didn't want to lose the life you built on my back. She looked down. I thought if I loved you enough, it wouldn't matter. That nearly broke me. Because I did love her enough to believe it didn't matter. Until now. Until she got pregnant again. I reached for the second envelope. Still sealed. This is my post-vasectomy test. Done 2 weeks ago. 0 sperm count. Confirmed. She blinked. I don't understand. No, I said. You just didn't expect to get caught twice. Then it happened. Her mask slipped. Just a little. She looked down. Away. And then calmly, almost too calmly, she said, You were working late. Distant. We weren't connecting. I felt alone. There it was. The justification. The story she'd been crafting in her head for months. Maybe even years. Not to tell me. To tell herself. So your solution was to let me raise another man's child? To lie to me, over and over, and then get pregnant again like I wouldn't notice. She started to cry then. Finally. But I couldn't tell if it was guilt or fear of consequence. Maybe both. Who is he? I asked. Silence. You owe me that much. She shook her head. It doesn't matter. It does if you're carrying his child. Her mouth opened. Closed. Nothing came out. That's when I knew. She didn't plan to tell him either. She was going to raise this second child the same way she raised Lily as ours. And hope the truth stayed buried long enough to never matter. But the truth has teeth. And this time, it bit back. I want a divorce, I said. Her head snapped up. Michael. You don't get to call me that anymore. I stood up. My voice calm. My hands steady. I'll be a father to Lily because I've loved her since day one. But I'm done pretending we're anything more than what you turned us into, a lie. I walked out before she could answer. Because some things don't deserve a response. Some betrayals speak loud enough on their own. The night I told Ava I wanted a divorce, I didn't go to a hotel. I went to Lily's room. She was already asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling in the soft blue light of her night lamp. Her favorite stuffed elephant was curled under her arm, worn from love. And I just stood there, watching her, trying to decide what I was supposed to feel. Because this little girl wasn't mine. Not genetically, not biologically, but she knew my voice. She ran to me when she scraped her knee. She looked for me every night to tuck her in. She called me Dada, and I'd earned that title every bath, every diaper, every sleepless night. Blood be damned. The next morning, I made her breakfast like always. Peanut butter toast with the crust cut off. Apple slices in the shape of hearts. Her favorite purple cup. She smiled when I poured her milk. Laughed when I put her hair in 2 messy buns. That laugh, God, that laugh, didn't care about paternity tests. It only knew love. I made a decision. A quiet one. A strong one. I wasn't walking away from her. From Ava, yes. From the marriage, the lies, the betrayal, all of it, gone. But Lily, she was never part of the deception. She didn't ask for this. And I refused to let her become collateral damage in a story she had no part in writing. A few days later, Ava tried to talk. Tried to negotiate, to rationalize, to reshape the narrative. You're not even her real father, she said during one of the colder moments. You don't have to stay involved. I looked her dead in the eyes. That little girl is more mine than she'll ever be his. And I meant it. Because fatherhood isn't a biological accident. It's a daily choice. And I chose Lily. I filed for divorce. Filed for shared custody. And told my lawyer I'd fight tooth and nail to stay in her life, regardless of blood, DNA, or Ava's lies. Because you can walk away from a marriage. But you don't walk away from a child who looks at you like you're the safest place in the world. One night, about a week after I moved into my brother's guest house, Lily called me from her toy phone. She held it to her ear and whispered, Hi, Dada. I love you. Come home. I hung up and cried for 20 straight minutes. Then I packed a bag and went back the next morning, not for Ava, not for closure, but for breakfast with my daughter. Because some roles are earned, not inherited. And I'd rather be a father by love than a husband by force. The divorce went quickly. No courtroom drama. No screaming matches. Just paperwork. Legal language. Signatures that closed the book on something I once believed would last forever. Ava didn't fight me on custody. Not really. Maybe guilt wore her down. Maybe she thought I'd leave quietly if she handed me what I wanted. She didn't understand. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to ruin her. I just wanted her gone cleanly. Completely. She could keep her lies. I'd keep my peace. I moved into a small house on the edge of town. 2 bedrooms. A yard. Fenced in. Quiet. Every Saturday and Sunday, Lily comes running through the door like she's being chased by joy itself. She draws crayon pictures of me, her, and the elephant plush. Sometimes she adds a 4th figure, a vague scribble she calls baby, the one Ava's carrying. I don't comment. I don't ask. That child isn't mine. And I won't pretend again. People sometimes ask if I'd ever date again. If I trust women. If I'm angry, bitter, hardened. The answer? No. I'm not bitter. I'm awake. There's a difference. I know now that love isn't a promise. It's a test. Not of passion, but of character, of truth. And Ava failed it twice. But I won't let her lies become my story. Last week, Lily said something that stopped me in my tracks. We were reading a book, and she looked up and said, "You're my favorite person." I smiled. "You're mine too." And I meant it more than I've ever meant anything. Ava still sends messages sometimes. Small ones. Updates. Ultrasound photos. Offers to talk. I don't respond. Not out of hate, but because I built something new. Something honest. And she doesn't get to visit this life. Not even as a ghost. The truth is, I lost a wife, but I gained myself. And more importantly, I chose to stay a father. Not because I had to, but because love, real love, is never an accident. It's a decision. And I make it every single day.